Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Today on the show, a Black-owned brew pub is pouring promises of bold flavor and cleaner ingredients.
Plus, shootings, assassinations, and targeted arson. How America's current political violence feels familiar, yet uniquely alarming.
Also, in the race for Detroit's next mayor, Latino voters want leadership on jobs, schools, and immigrant justice. So who can deliver?
Plus, we continue our coverage of Detroit's mayoral race. Today, we'll hear from mayoral candidate and former Detroit Police Chief James Craig. But first, mayoral candidate Joel Haashiim sits down with Robin.
Thanks, Tia. There are a few candidates running as outsiders in Detroit's mayoral election. They say they aren't normal politicians, that they plan to prioritize the needs of residents in neighborhoods first. Joel Haashiim is one of those outsiders. He's a businessman who first opened a store on 7 Mile and Hartwell Street at the age of 20. Now, the 73-year-old is running on a platform to stop billionaires like Dan Gilbert and the Ilitch family from controlling local politics. Haashiim says he wants to put power into people's hands. To do this, he wants to bring back citizens' district councils and start a public bank. Come November, there are 9 candidates plus a write-in trying to be the mayor, the person to lead the city into its next chapter. So how does Joel Haashiim plan to gain popularity and pass his proposals? To discuss this now, we have Joel here. Joel, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you.
So first things first, the big $1 million question. Why are you running for mayor?
I'm running for mayor because I've watched the community suffer for the last 20 years in Detroit. I've watched the mainstream media beat them down. I've watched the city council and the mayor's office gentrify our community. I have watched our people lose faith in the political system. And so in order for us to change that, we need someone who's not a political candidate, career, or a government worker, a career government worker, a career politician. They can't solve our problems.
Talk to me more about what you think is at the root of some of these problems that you've just mentioned.
I think the root is always money. I think when you look at the gentrification and whose communities are gentrified, you look at the high poverty rate, you see where the resources, the money never goes where it's supposed to help the people. And at the expense of the people, we see the oligarchs, the billionaires, the millionaires are making money here in the city of Detroit, but we haven't seen that trickle down to the communities.
So then would you say what's happening in the city of Detroit mirrors what's happening on the national stage when we look at the power that oligarchs have and the lack of power that a lot of normal folks have?
Absolutely. The trend has always, gentrification has always hit the black community. That community has been nationwide and here in Detroit something that visits. It's a system that's been implemented by the political apparatus and the corporations to displace people, take their wealth, and then they come back in, and then they make untold billions of dollars off of the backs of those people who were made refugees or who lost their property to taxes. So that's the political apparatus from the mayor's office, the city council, willingly or unwillingly. This is what has happened. The county and the state, they have preyed on the people, the residents of the city of Detroit, overtaxing them, as well as making sure that they took their homes in the process.
So it sounds to me like gentrification, then you see that to be the root of many of the problems that we're facing here in the city of Detroit, a black city that is confronting a lot of gentrification as the city is experiencing this revival. And that means that we're not seeing a lot of the riches going into local neighborhoods.
Absolutely. Greed, corporate greed is playing itself out across this country, and it has been playing itself out here in Detroit for the last, since Mayor Coleman Young.
But rich people would say that they got wealthy based on their business transactions. I mean, you're a business owner. They say that they did the hard work, and so now they have the legitimate power to shape things as they see fit. What do you say to someone with that perspective?
That perspective is false. And the reason it's false is I've done also 15 trade delegations / business delegations. I led the largest trade delegation out of Michigan when we took General Motors, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Comerica Bank, and 30 plus other. I've done 3 trade delegations for Wayne County, 2 of them to China. And so I understand exactly what's going on because I'm sitting there. When I was in China, I seen where they wanted to bring in microchip manufacturing here to Detroit. And I seen the people who blocked it. Also, we brought people in to invest in Detroit. They wanted to actually invest in Detroit. And I seen the governor and the county and the other corporate people try to make them invest somewhere else. Why? I'm the person or one of the persons that actually made that happen. We're looking at a situation where when we did that trade delegation to the Middle East, for example, GM was doing less than $1 billion. Once we facilitated that, GM has now in 2024 made some $30 billion in the Gulf states in the Middle East. We helped to facilitate that opportunity. We'd like to do that for Detroit. Quickly, I'd like to share also something that a lot of people don't understand. Looking at the history of this country, cities and towns, we see where the workforce, they want to keep them at a certain wage level, minimum wage, so that the corporations will have that workforce. So what they do when a big corporate or other employer potentially wants to come to an area, they refuse to let them come in. Or through gentrification, they reduce the transportation, they reduce all the other resources and needs. So these big companies cannot come into Detroit. So that keeps the Detroit community at a 42-43% poverty rate. So this is by design, Detroiters that need to know and understand how these things work in the back room amongst these political people and corporations.
So once again, this is a recurring theme here, and that is that corporations in America have become too powerful, and you feel that we have been seeing that for a long time when it comes to Detroit residents and folks being exploited and not getting some of the same opportunities as others are getting, let's say, their suburban neighbors. I want to go back, if we could, to a long time ago when you opened a business at the age of 20, and things were very different. Certainly when we think about the kind of corporate control and power
Yes.
that we're discussing. What was it like opening a business at such a young age, at the age of 20?
It was great because I realized that once I knew I was not going to be an NBA ball player, the benefit of going through high school and having an opportunity to get all types of jobs all the way through my junior high and high school years, I worked at a lot of companies. In fact, I was a OR technician, went to Shapiro Nursing School at Sinai Hospital. So I actually had that certification before I actually got my diploma from Cooley High. Having shared that, it was great to have an opportunity. I had ended up having 3 stores in Detroit. I sold those stores to someone who lived in the community, and I went into wholesale distribution, selling the chain stores. And so it was a great business. It allowed me an opportunity to first open doors that had been previously closed to black people. And it allowed me to travel the world to find products to put on those big retailer shelves. And so it was a game changer for my life. It allowed me to mature and develop. And so it was great. And I had the opportunity to do it because everything was affordable.
A different time indeed. I want to now look at one of your biggest ideas for the present moment, which is citizens district councils. What do those councils do, and why do you want to bring them back to Detroit?
Because our platform is an empowerment platform. So everything about our platform is to bring empowerment back to the people, to the, and basically they destroyed the district councils, and people have a right to determine what comes into their neighborhood. And people also should be understanding that if it's a big corporation or a small one, it should be doing something for the community. It should be helping to improve our quality of life. We want good corporate citizens in Detroit. I'm not anti-corporate. I'm anti-bad citizen corporate. And so here in Detroit, when you're giving people 30 and 35 years tax abatements, taken from the schools, taken from the libraries, nobody in their sane mind allows you to take away from their children and their grandchildren. And this is what has happened here in the city of Detroit.
This is the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. We're talking about the Detroit mayoral race with candidate Joel Haashiim. Now, community advisory councils already exist. They're meant to be community leaders to tell council members the needs of residents. There's also a community benefits ordinance, and that requires developers to negotiate investments with surrounding neighborhoods before receiving tax breaks. Why aren't these programs enough?
Well, first of all, the community benefits ordinance is unenforceable. We have had a long history in Detroit, from Gilbert to the Ilitches to these large corporations that tell us they're going to produce so many Detroit resident jobs and opportunities. And guess what? They never keep their word. They fall short on their word. So we need a true benefits agreement enforceable in court to make sure that when we give these tax abatements and we give these resources and Detroit City taxpayer dollars pays for these infrastructures on these particular projects, we need to make sure that it's enforceable in court. And that's the big part of the problem. We also, our community district council, they need a little more opportunity to be independent. And we need to also see what we can do to make sure that they're a functioning entity in the community and relax some of their financial issues and financial pressures so that they can actually do what they're supposed to do.
So the citizens' district councils then would have teeth. And the issue, though, is that currently the city would need to have a population of 1 million to revive citizens' district councils. So how would you get citizens' district councils back, given our problems with our population?
Yes. First and foremost, we need to focus on bringing that population back in the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, since that hasn't happened, we need to devise something new, give the voters an opportunity to vote on how they would like to see that function, because we understand the state regulation of, you need 1 million people. Well, we know that they gentrified some 400,000 people out of Detroit. So we definitely have a challenge there, but I want to give the power to the people. And so we will take it to court. Regardless to how many people is in the city, people have a right to self-determination and the decisions to make what comes into their community. They have a right to have a say-so And so if you take away their right of self-determination and say, well, no, you got to have 1 million people, I don't know. That may be challengeable in court. We'll certainly take our city department and we'll fight that. Because regardless of how many people are in a city, the idea is that the community have a right to determine what comes into their community. They have a right to protect their seniors and their children and their grandchildren.
It sounds like it's giving folks a level of autonomy that would feel really foreign, actually, from how things have been. I want to talk about something else that you are floating that also aims to put power back into people's hands, and that's a public bank. What is a public bank?
A public/municipal bank is owned by the city. It's owned by the people. And if we set it up properly, there are different ideas on how to set it up. There's a lot of talk across the country. North Dakota's public bank, but basically the idea is when government does not solve the problems of people, people have a right to self-determination to solve their own problems. So Detroit has been plagued with high insurance rates, auto and car. They also have been plagued with redlining, all types of discrimination from banks and financial institutions. So if Detroit has their own public bank, it would solve 95% of the financial issues here in the city of Detroit, and it would allow people to get reasonable insurance rates.
How do you plan to get Detroit to have a public bank, though?
Well, of course, I think there'll be a lot of people fighting it. The financial institutions, they want to keep doing what they're doing. They don't want to change. They're going to fight. The state legislative body, who allows us to pay this environment to pay the highest insurance rates in the country in a 42% poverty-stricken city where people are paying $10,000, $15,000 for auto and home insurance. That's ridiculous. So what we would do is we'll put it on the ballot for the voters to have their own public bank. That's the most and wisest way to go. Nobody wants Detroit to have the people to have economic empowerment. That's obvious. Nobody wants to improve the quality of life for the residents here in the city of Detroit. That's obvious.
It sounds like you would be up against a lot of adversity with some of the proposals that you have. You're very clear-eyed about that. How do you gear up for fights like that?
Well, first and foremost, I look at my ancestors. I look at Coleman Young, Mayor Coleman Young. I look at other people who sacrificed so much for us to have an opportunity today. I look at all of our black leaders, even Latino leaders. You look at what they had to go through to give people what they deserve, which was a better quality of life, an opportunity for education, an opportunity for economic empowerment. So I'm willing to stand up if they sacrifice their time, their lives for me. And at my age, I have, children in the city of Detroit, grandchildren. And
you have, 9 children? Is that right?
I have 9 children and 18 grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And all the children in the city of Detroit belongs to us because it takes a village to raise a child. So we need to make sure that somebody stands up. And I know a lot of people say, oh, all the candidates sound alike. Well, no candidate sounds like me, even though they have taken from my platform, they've plagiarized it, and they have used it as though it was their idea. So they sound like me. However, I'm the one that has been proposing this empowerment platform now for over 2.5 years.
We are running out of time here. I'm wondering very quickly, who's taken from your platform, though?
Oh, well, this is what I'll do. I spoke about Detroit having a diversified economy. You've got 2 or 3 candidates talking about that. I have asked for a forensic audit / financial or business audit of Detroit City budget and departments. You've got 2 other candidates saying that now. I have spoke about pillars. Now we have about 3 candidates doing that. We have. I came up with the idea of setting up safe centers in many city halls across the city, along with health, first responders, etc. Now we have a candidate. I think they're a front runner, and they're speaking about they want to set up many city halls throughout the city. So these are ideas that resonated from myself, and so now I see where they've plagiarized, and so they sound like me now.
Well, we are...
Until you ask them how they're going to do it.
And I do appreciate you giving us a little bit more details on how you plan to implement some of these plans. And I wanted to talk with you about more of those plans, but we are running out of time here. The one last interesting idea I want to bring up, and I need you to just take 30 seconds or less to tell me about it, which I know will be challenging, but you have an idea to bring hydroelectric power to Detroit. Why is that necessary? How do you plan to do it? 30 seconds or less.
There's the technology is available for underwater hydro systems that don't hurt the environment. And so basically we need to utilize the Detroit River. It's a current. It has energy. And we're having a problem with DTE and other sources where our bills are getting too high, where they have a monopoly. And the city needs to have a city-owned municipal. And so we would bring that in along with hydrogen department as well. Hydrogen is the new energy. Detroit needs to be on the top of that so that we can have reasonable energy rates. And also, last but not least, as long as you have land, energy, the ability to make cheap energy, and water, that's a recipe for prosperity. And it can be prosperity for the people here in the city of Detroit. They can be living a better quality of life off the assets of the city as opposed to the oligarchs and the rich and the corporations.
Joel Haashiim, Detroit mayoral candidate. Thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you.
The primary election is August 5th. The top 2 vote getters will move on to the general election in November. The Metro will continue to bring you conversations with the candidates as the race progresses. We've spoken with 4 other candidates. To hear those conversations, head to WDET.org. Coming up, what do Latino voters want Detroit's next mayor to focus on? We'll hear about that next. Stay with us. This is The Metro on WDET.